All right. Now, the weather in comparison to, and we haven't started the meeting yet, the weather in comparison to Colorado, to Denver.
Totally
How are you
different.
finding that? How are you
Totally
finding the
different.
weather?
Well, you all got like 4 weather zones. And so I didn't know what that was all. I had to jump into 4 different weather zones. There was 60 to 90 in one given drive. So getting used to the different desert zone versus water zone, that was kind of a new experience.
That's kind of unique, you know, and warm, a little bit warmer, a little less warmer, but not cold. So that's the whole thing too. But it can get cold at night in some of these areas here. Yeah. Hello, Stephanie. How are you, Ms. Perez?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Good to see you as well.
Thank you. Trying to stay healthy.
All right. All right. I think the rest of us are too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of us
Nice
are
to
too.
see everybody.
Likewise.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me? This is Jack.
Yes.
Can you see me? Because I don't see myself on the screen.
No, don't. Let me go back in, check again, and take a look. Because Pastor Hodges had that same problem when he came in earlier.
All those hats, Dennis.
Yeah, you hadn't made me a panelist, so now you probably just got to make him a panelist.
Yeah, he's a panelist.
Well, when I didn't get in, I wasn't a panelist. You didn't have me as a panelist.
Okay, let me promote the panelist again.
Because I only saw it one time after I told you that I couldn't see.
Right. We have Alex Riggins from the UT. He is also on the line. And then we also have Chief Henry Foster from the 4th District, Councilmember Monica Montgomery. He likewise.
I see Jack now. Jack's in.
Yeah, that's all you had to do.
Yes, yes. So let me make sure that the Chief Foster is promoted. Good evening, Brother Henry. Welcome this evening, sir.
Hello, hello.
We are.
Is that D. Henry Foster?
My brother, how are you?
How you doing, Noop? I'm good, man.
Good,
How about yourself?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Oh Lord, we got 2 Kappas on here tonight. Wow.
Don't get them started.
Don't get them started.
We can't help ourselves.
Yeah, I think we might have to remove Brother Henry because he got all that blue and the black background right back there, and so
Yeah, that's all right. But I know his heart. I know his heart. His heart bleed red.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So welcome, Mr. Riggins. We are waiting for one more member to come on for quorum. Chief Foster, we're waiting for one more member to come on to establish quorum.
In the meantime, can we review the districts that we still need representation for?
Yeah, I can run it off for you.
Okay, cool.
District 2, District 3, 6.
Can you go over what they represent? That way, that if we have any viewers, they know what communities we're discussing that have no representation on the board.
No, I don't know.
3 is filled, Bob. Mr. Burton is District
Yeah, Mr.
3.
Burton, but until we vote. But just running through the list, District 2, District 6, we have corrections, District 1, District 8, Human Relations, District 7, and Probation.
I have a slide on the PowerPoint. I don't know if y'all want to show that or no.
No, we'll wait till the meeting it has officially started.
Yeah, got it.
Right.
But would you want that displayed, Norma?
I think so. So we can show the public the areas in the city that we would like to have represented on our board.
Okay. Do you want me to put Kathleen's seat as a vacancy? My understanding is that she hasn't officially submitted her resignation yet.
No, not as of yet.
Okay,
Not as of yet.
okay. So I'm gonna leave her still in her seat then.
So it makes those districts that are not there, 1, 2,
Eight.
7 and 8.
7 and 8. And then the HR, as Bob has mentioned, and probation. Correction is being taken by Pastor Dennis Hodges. It could be correction, probation. So.
Got it.
All right, I'll tell a bad joke. Why couldn't the FBI catch the hacker, cyber hacker? She ran somewhere.
Bob, that was truly a bad joke and ransomware. Okay.
It's a tough crowd.
Hey, Jeff Jordan was laughing at that. So.
I gave it a tennis clap. You can't see me, but I chuckled.
Good.
What do you call a belt made of watches? A waste of time.
That's good. Hopefully not appropriate for tonight.
Bob, do you happen to have an updated number for Kathy or a way to reach her? I already tried calling her again.
I will look at my contacts. Let me pull it up.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have texted Kathy. I have also called Kathy as well as called Miss Dong Polly as well twice today.
Did you use the 0998 number, Gerald?
I did use a 0998 number.
That's the number I have.
I don't know if this is inappropriate, so Mr. Brown, please, Gerald, please let me know if it is. I'm thinking maybe the executive team needs to attempt to have some meetings with the council
Okay.
members.
Hey, everyone, I
who
have Kathy on the
are
line.
vacant.
Okay,
No, you can go ahead. Gerald, you sent her the link, correct?
I did.
Oops, Gerald?
Yes,
He said he did.
I
Okay.
did.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye.
Woohoo!
So she's joining, so let's give her a couple more minutes, and that way we can actually have her restart our meeting. Yay! I'm excited about that.
I guess, thank you so much for your patience as we move forward.
Did you hear the question I had asked Mr. Brown?
We should wait to have a discussion about that because that is a
Okay.
agenda item.
Thank you.
That would have to be an agenda item.
Okay.
In the meantime, if everyone can review the agenda.
I see, Norma, that the question that I asked you is on the agenda, so forgive me for overlooking that.
Board and Police. Did that catch me? Opening the meeting at 6:14?
Would you do it again, please?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. I'm inviting everyone to join us today at 6:14 to officially begin our Citizens Advisory Board and Police and Community Relations meeting. I want to be able to welcome everyone, including several law enforcement officials that are here with us, as well as a new board member. We're going to be officially introducing each one of them as we go along in the agenda. And I'm going to go ahead and begin with the purpose of the Citizens Advisory Board, Police and Community Relations, for anyone who's new and may not know what CAB is all about. Vice Chair, Ms. Jenkins, would you be able to describe that for us, please?
Certainly. The Citizens Advisory Board is based on the purpose of studying, consulting, and advising the mayor, city council, and or police and community relations. I'm sorry, this reads strangely. And community regarding community relations issues and crime prevention efforts. They also recommend and review policies, practices, and programs designed to make law enforcement sensitive, effective, and responsive to the needs of the city. Additionally, the board develops and makes recommendations towards informing the community of its rights and responsibilities when it comes to any contact with police officers.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to turn over to roll call. Secretary Bob Ilko, please.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just as a quick point of order, if we could ask everyone to turn on their cameras for the roll call.
Okay.
All right. Kathleen Fisher. She's Kathleen.
Here, and I'm getting my camera on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Pastor Hodges.
Here.
Bob Ilko's here, Samantha, Vice Chair Jenkins,
Here, present.
Chair Sandoval,
Here.
Jack Schaefer,
Yeah.
Stephanie Perez,
Present.
and Mr. Burton.
Present.
We've got quorum.
Bob, I put the
Polly-
thing up
Polly
on the
is-
screen for you to refer to. Sorry.
Polly is not present tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
And that gives us quorum. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the approval of past minutes for the July 2021. Did you guys get a chance to review after all these months, I hope? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay, was moved by, I believe, Jack.
Second.
And Pastor Hodges seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
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 We have to do roll
Aye.
call. because It's online.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
I did, Jack Schaefer.
Oh, thank you. Handwriting the note. Kathleen Fisher,
Aye.
Pastor Hodges,
Aye.
Bob Ilko's yes. Chair Jenkins, Vice Chair,
Aye.
Chair Sandoval,
Aye.
Jack Schaefer,
Aye.
and Mr. Burton,
Aye.
and then Stephanie Perez.
Aye.
Pass.
Thank you. Moving on to the chair report. I first and foremost would like to welcome David Burton. He's our new board member, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Burton to introduce a little bit more about himself and the district that he's representing. Go ahead, Mr. Burton.
Well, yes, so I'm David Burton, representing District 3. A little bit about myself, originally from the East Coast, came out here by way of the glorious United States Marine Corps. Had an excellent time there, served 10 years, did counterintelligence, then got out. So I used to head intelligence office in Baghdad for a little bit, and then a couple of offices throughout Southwest Asia. I did a career change, came back here to San Diego, and now I do business development for a defense contractor. I'm very happy to be here. Look forward to serving and working with you all for the next 2 years. You guys have any questions or want to hear some crazy stories, just hit me up. Be glad to sit down and chat with you all. I think this is a very important board, so I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Do you recall we used to have Mr. Holliday in District 3 representation, and he moved from the district, and so he stepped down, and luckily enough, we had Mr. Burton who was interested. So like, come on in, and now we just have to work on the other districts that we have in San Diego to make sure we have we're able to have quorum each time that we meet. So if you know of anyone who's living in any of the communities that we need, please go ahead and promote it. The next item on our agenda is the participation of CAB in the press conference. And, you know, Sdpd will speak more about that in a couple of minutes. But we were invited to be present and discuss this survey where family members or community members can participate and give their input about various practices regarding police law enforcement attitudes or perspectives. Basically, it's giving the community a voice so that you guys can express the various questions that they pose. And so we encourage the community to participate. It will be available in different languages, so please don't let language be a barrier. And I'm going to turn it over later to Sdpd that can speak more about it, but I saw the data. It's very favorable in giving our law enforcement here in San Diego a better understanding of what to do on how to reach the community, as well as how to react to to the perspectives that the community is giving. So we look forward to seeing some of that data. The next item on the agenda is the interview that we had, well, I had with Union Tribune. Mr. Riggins is here today. If you recall, he used to be present during our board meetings. And precisely we discussed the vacant seats that we currently have on CAB, and hoping that a story with the UT will promote awareness in our community, because oftentimes we have very active community members that go to meetings and or advocate at city council, but they're not aware of this board. And so being able to have an article that raises the importance of community members like ourselves to come and be able to represent their communities is very important. And to know that we are all volunteers, we're not getting paid for this, and that we're just passionate leaders that want to make a change in our community. And so if you are watching today and you're interested, please reach out to Reverend Brown or myself and or any of the other members on the board, so that you could learn a little bit more about the duties that we entail. And today we're going to be discussing some of those as well. So stick around so you can learn more about that. With that, I'd like to turn it over to, let's see, the next item on our agenda is, do we have any non-agenda public items? Mr. Reverend Brown?
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, I was muted. No, we have no non-agenda public items for comment now.
Thank you.
This time.
All right, and do we have, the executive chief is not present with us, right? Is Paul, are you speaking on behalf of Sdpd today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so it's your turn, hit it.
All right. Well, good
Thank you
evening,
for joining
everyone.
us today.
Thank you, Norma. I'm Paul Conley, Assistant Chief, San Diego Police Department. I oversee investigations. I'm sitting here with the guy that everyone knows, Captain Jeff Jordan. And I'm filling in for Executive Assistant Chief McGrath, because he couldn't be with us this evening. So we're going to give you an update on some of the ongoings with the San Diego Police Department. So first of all, I'm happy to report that we had a new police academy start last week. The police academy had 47 new police recruits. This is a very diverse group. We had 4 African-American, 25 Hispanic, 4 Asian, and 14 white recruits. 13 of those recruits were women, which is a pretty high percentage, and so that's supporting the chief's goal to get more diversity into our police department, including increasing the number of females that we have on the police department. Our current department sworn staffing with the start of this academy is 1,963. Given that we have a budgeted staffing of 2,036, we're still 73 officers short of what we're budgeted for. So we're working hard to try to achieve that. And we have been for the past 3 or 4 years, ever since Chief Neslight became the chief of the San Diego Police Department. In regard to COVID, the city has imposed the COVID vaccine mandate on all city employees, including the police department. Employees have until December 1st to either be fully vaccinated or have applied for either a religious or medical exemption. If employees are not in compliance by December 1st, they will be served with a 30-day notice of termination. And we at the police department are hopeful that all of our unvaccinated employees will find a way to stay employed, either through the vaccination or a reasonable accommodation through the city. And I think it's obvious that any loss of our valuable employees will negatively affect our staffing levels, and in turn affect our ability to meet the community's expectations to serve them effectively and efficiently. The chief's office has had many discussions about how we would handle any loss of numbers of officers. It's just hard to predict how many we could lose. So we have different levels of what we do based on how many officers we could potentially lose. We just kind of have to wait and see on that, and hopefully we don't lose anyone. Next, I'll go over some crime numbers. Our crime numbers come out every quarter, and overall, compared to the first 8 months of 2020, violent crime has increased by 579 cases. That's 70%. 17%. And a few examples of those increases are rape is up from 320 to 385 cases during that time period. That's 20%. Aggravated assaults up from 2,236 to 2,847. That's 27%. And then current to date, as of today, our homicides are up from 41 this time last year to 55 this year. That's 34% increase. And then overall, compared to the first 8 months of last year, property crimes have also increased from a 17%. A few examples are larcenies up by 18%, vehicle theft 22%, car prowls 27%. We think a lot of that has to do to several factors. Back when COVID started, there was a pretty significant reduction in jail population to reduce the number of people in jail, to limit the spread of COVID, along with some changes in the legal system, like zero bail and those types of things. There're just more people out on the street that used to be serving more time for different types of crimes, and it's just challenging, and we're working hard to keep these numbers down to make sure we keep our community safe. And with that, I'll turn it over to Captain Jordan, who will kind of review some of the state legislation on pending bills that will affect law enforcement, and then also address what Norma had brought up about the CAB participation in the Sdpd press conference.
So good evening, everyone. I appreciate you all being here tonight. Let's just start with kind of every October we go through this. The governor signs and often evaluates upwards of 175 safety bills. There were numbers of ones that hit his desk that he ultimately did sign, and is going to require us to make some really quick modifications to our existing policies and procedures to make sure that we are in accordance with state law. So as we go right down the list, the ones that are really impacting us immediately will be AB 481, who gets into a military use policy that really spells out what equipment within the police department has been designated as military type equipment. It is very broadly defined to even include some of our command vehicles and things that you would not necessarily think are military equipment. But we are responsible for crafting a military use policy and bringing it in front of City Council for approval. The deadline to do that is May 1st, but the mayor has made it very clear that he anticipates that San Diego will be one of the first cities in the state to comply with this. So we should be well in advance of that date. Hopefully look forward to bring something in front of City Council, as the new year breaks in January. But however, in order to do the military use policy, it impacts, say, our First Amendment, our protest policy, 4.17. Obviously, a lot of things when you're moving legislation like a military use policy, you also have Lorena Gonzalez's bill, that's just AB 48, which talks about kinetic energy weapons at protests. That will have to be incorporated into it, along with SB 98, which talks about media access at protests. I've already reached out to some of our local media representatives, talking about getting their perspectives on how this can best be implemented. Obviously, all these things have timelines. We also have AB 958, which was really sponsored by LA County Sheriffs. That really talks about something that we had talked about here, updating our association policies. We had talked about the events in January 6th, and then obviously law enforcement gangs is a big issue throughout the state of California, particularly the LA County Sheriffs. So we'll have to be updating our association policies and have that in place by January 1st. And then obviously SB 1421, which gets into CPRA laws, is being expanded under SB 16 with additional categories related to sustained complaints for bad searches or arrests and according to failure to intervene. So all these new categories come online, and we're going to have to get release significantly more documents under SB 16. And then obviously that'll dovetail off into SB 2, which gets into decertification. I'll be participating in January in the post commission that will be looking to establish the rules under SB 2 and hopefully able to report back to the board on where the state's going in that direction. And then lastly, I'll just finish up. Norma, I really appreciate you joining us for the Zen City rollout. Zen City, as many people know, is a survey application. It works through advertisements and social media and other places where community members can weigh in on various issues in regards to their safety within their communities, trust levels within their communities, But also one of the things that's really interesting about it is being able to kind of identify what are the biggest priorities in the communities and what are people seeing, reporting that back. That information comes back to us. We are already getting a wave of surveys filled out. Our goal obviously is to take those back to the respective patrol captains and say, this is the feedback that we're getting and this is the priorities that we'd like you to address within your respective divisions, and report out to the chief and really also report out to the communities. It's just in the first phases of Zen City's rollout, which started on November 1st. We're hoping to kind of get some public facing dashboards up on our website so people can see the transparency of the tool, where we can report out on what people are seeing and reporting to us and identifying their priorities, as well as identifying how we are responding to those priorities. So a lot of things going on here. And with that, I don't want to go too long because I know we started a little bit late. There's a lot of guest speakers here, but I'm free to answer any questions as we move throughout the meeting.
Thank you very much. I do have one question. Assistant Chief Connolly, the trend regarding crime, I know that we've seen an increase here in San Diego that you mentioned, but how about nationwide? Is this a phenomenon that has been seen nationwide, or is this specific to our region?
This is definitely a nationwide trend, and it's something that I think all law enforcement agencies are struggling to find a solution for. And I think there has been changes in legislation that are impacting crime levels. And as these changes are being made and time has passed, some of these changes are hopefully being reevaluated. And we need to come back to some type of level ground where violent offenders can be held in jail rather than booked and released under kind of a zero bail policy. I mean, there are circumstances there that are appropriate for people to be released under zero bail, but in instances where we have violent offenders that will continue to be a threat to society, I think the court systems, the city attorney's office, DA's office need to really reevaluate how we can hold those types of dangerous offenders in jail so they're not reoffending and negatively impacting our communities.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I had two questions. I regularly take part in my community planning group as I sit on the board there. And I noticed that for several months now, we have not been able to receive up-to-date public safety and crime reports from our community services officer. And while he shows up consistently and does engage with us, I'm wondering what it is that has happened in department administration that has caused us to not be able to get up-to-date crime stat reports, meaning like just from the prior month, not several months back.
Yeah, there really hasn't been any changes that would impact your ability to receive those numbers as you have in the past. If you let me know who you've been working with, I can talk to them to make sure you're getting those numbers.
And just a quick question has that question been asked to the CRO about their inability? Have they indicated they have an inability to get that? And
yes, and the indication has been that there's been some sort of change in policy or decision making somewhere that has led to this inability to provide up-to-date community stats regarding crime. And so it's been a concern, and like I said, it's been several months now. So I'm not sure what has happened, but I'd like to get a firm answer, because as I said, our community services officer is very engaged with our community. He's present for our meetings consistently. I'm just concerned that we're not able to get access to the information that we would like to have.
What police division is that out of?
Southeastern.
Okay, I'll follow up on that, and we'll make sure that you're getting those numbers. I'm not aware of anything that would impact their ability to give you
just vacancies.
Yeah, maybe just some vacancies, but yeah.
But we've had some in our information services division. We've had a number of recent decisions to leave the organization, just retirements generally. but we have a number of positions that we haven't been able to fill, but I don't think that would adversely impact your ability to get update numbers. So as the chief says, I'll be more than happy to run down with Chief Connolly's direction to run those down and report back out to you as quickly as we can about getting that information.
The Northeast Division gave us an update the last 2 months. So it's happening at least in one division.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then my second question was, I appreciate the report on all of the policy changes and legislation that have come down. And I was wondering if we could get that in writing so that we as a board maybe could do some work in looking at how the implementation of that new legislation is going to impact the Sdpd and our communities.
Absolutely. I think I prepared a recent summary for some of the captains about some of the pressing issues and where they are. There are a number, probably at least a half a dozen that require significant policy updates and/or modifications to be in compliance. And I'll get that emailed out to your director, Norma. I'll get that out to you through either yourself, Gerald Bradley, for distribution out for your respective committee as quickly as I can.
Thank you.
And just so that one of the things that I committed to as a chair was to be able to disseminate the link of Sun City. If you could also include that so that we can distribute it amongst the board members so that we could also promote it within our own communities to engage our community members in providing feedback.
Okay, we'll see.
Right. Thank you so much for being here today and reporting. We're going to move on now to the next item on our agenda. And we want to welcome Ms. Kim Desmond. She's from the City of San Diego Chief Race and Equity Officer. So welcome to CAB. Turn on your mic.
Thanks for having me. I was unmuting the Zoom.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you to all the commissioners for welcoming me into the space. And a little bit about myself. I recently relocated to San Diego to work for Mayor Gloria to build out the new Office on Race and Equity as the first inaugural office, but also the first Chief of Race and Equity in the city. And so I come to this position with most certainly experience in local government. And so I think apparently I must like building out these types of offices and sustaining them in cities, because this is my second city where I'm doing this work. I actually did something similar for the mayor in Denver. And so I come with a wealth of experience in local government, being well-positioned with knowing how to build out offices that are focused on race and equity with infrastructure that is built to outlive any administration in regards to this office also is already in ordinance, it's in policy. So that just tells you right there that this office is going to be in place beyond me being in this position. And so I've had experience not only in local government and large scale local government mayoral authority systems with 13,000 folks, but also I've worked in quasi-government as well. So quasi-government housing, I've done, one of my other lives was a lot of case management, youth development, adult workforce work. And so I come from that pedagogical background, as well as I actually have an education administration background. So I actually have worked in the education sector as well, coordinating education programs in different sectors, nonprofit included. And so all those different levels of experience, education, housing, homelessness, workforce, economic development are all components of my background and experience. By way of degree, I actually have 2 master's degrees, one's in education administration with policy studies, and the other is community counseling. And so definitely come with a sound understanding of systems and ways in which to work with people and understanding the psychological mechanisms for the way people move in systems. And so all those things are a part of the way that I have been prepared for this particular role. And so looking back on it, I can't say that I was intentional with trying to create all those different spaces, but definitely they all make sense now because I have experience in all those different areas. And so this position calls on a lot of that. So I need to have experience in not only workforce, but housing and government and education. So all those things meet me and position me well for this particular opportunity. And so that's my background. And really what brought me to the city were a couple of reasons. Was being that this is the first office I always want to also shout out Council Member Montgomery Stepp in her role in making sure the office was created as well. So that's really one of the reasons too where I came here, is to be a part of an inaugural new office that really is positioned well to do some equitable work in the city. So I feel like you have most certainly an alignment of administrators in terms of our department leads, and as well as our elected officials who are really looking forward to designing equitable systems in this government structure. And so that's an opportunity that's like wide open for this city. And so I want to be a part of that and to support the mayor with that vision of making sure that this is a city for all of us, and all of us in every area of local government. And so that's really what brought me here, is the opportunity to be a part of what I like to say is that it's history in motion here in this city. Like, it's the 8th largest city in the country, borders Mexico. So you definitely get that era of opportunity to be inclusive in that space. And so definitely for me, this is a way to be able to bolster my skills in this particular context of local government size and reach in terms of the number of employees. And so that's my background. And so I think for me, more importantly, I like to also lead with and in with my purpose. This is not just a job for me. It's something that most certainly I am purposely directed to do in terms of I value what I do. So you get a person who is not just transactional. This work has meaning to me personally. And so I most certainly put my all into everything that I do, all of my thinking, all of my networks, all of the things that I'm able to come with experience with this space. So you get somebody who, beyond the pedagogy and the experience part of it, you get somebody who's purposely committed to really being clear about addressing racial injustice in systems. And so really understanding a systems approach to doing that. So that way you're not just addressing individual behavior, which really doesn't sometimes get you to dismantling the systems that continually perpetuate the inequity. So these are all things that I am passionate about in terms of my purpose. I'll stop there and see if there's any question about my background and my purpose, and then go more into perhaps some overview of what are some things on the agenda for the office.
Now, can you share with the community how long you've been in this position?
2 months.
Mhm.
2 months. And so I've only been in a position for probably maybe a little over 2 months, but not long at all. I like to call that 2 months. My first 2 weeks was a bonus week. So I had to get myself set up, get the good old city laptop in my office and all that good stuff, but not here long at all. I do like to say that even though I haven't been here long at all, I've met employees who've been in this system for 20 years, 15 years, 30 years. And so I definitely come prepared with being able to partner with folks who've, been doing the work for long before I arrived. And so definitely coming with a space of knowing how to work with, in partnership with community members, but as well as our employees.
Now, I'm also an educator, and I know that the work in equity is not always easy. It's very, because it challenges people to step out of their comfort zone to bring that equity. What have you seen in other systems that you feel could be a benefit here in San Diego?
Well, I think with this kind of position, it's in other cities across the country. This is not the first office that is popping up. Like, there are well over 400 now across the country. Like, this work is no longer something that's an option. These offices are popping up and they're getting staying power in local governments. So I want to clarify that this is an industry that is growing nationally. So to your point around, like, I know folks always ask me, do I feel like this work will be a political office? Not at all, because it's an ordinance, and B, to your question, this is one of 400 in local governments across the country, most recently Tucson, Arizona. And so to your question around what can we, for me, purposely glean with this particular position is the importance of addressing systems of inequity. And so really, what does it look like, whether you're in San Diego, or whether you're in Denver, whether you're in Atlanta, whether you're in San Antonio, whether you're pick a city, the systems of inequity look the same in terms of the clear racial disparities. And so that's why you're seeing cities who are signing up, because there's a not only an economic imperative, but a humanitarian imperative to address racial disparities in all of our systems. And so you see that across pick a city, you see the clear disparities that have not been actualized since the inception of the development of our country. So that's just why folks are signing up for it, is that there is a clear focus on saying we have to redesign this if we're all going to be able to thrive in our cities, in our states.
Thank you. Any other questions? So before she finishes up, go ahead, Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair Sandoval. Given the fact that this board's work is specifically centered around policing and community engagement, can you tell me how you envision the work of your office intersecting specifically with Sdpd?
Most certainly. As a mayor appointee, it is most certainly the mayor's priority to make sure that everything that we're doing in every department, including our police department, is equitable and inclusive. And so as a appointee to the mayor, it's most certainly a ready topic that I'm always getting pulled in around ways to work more in tandem with not only the police chief, but the mayor directly around ways in which we can be equitable in our practices, in our learning and development for officers, et cetera, et cetera. And so my positioning helps me be able to do that directly with the mayor and the chief. And so me coming to the group tonight, I'm looking forward to partnering with you as well in terms of your unique role with advising in those capacities of practices and policies. And so looking forward to the ways in which that makes its way to the different conduits of the chief, to the mayor as well. And so I would say I'm definitely getting put in already into those conversations around what my role can be to support making sure that we're doing the things that are on the mayor's agenda for in partnership with our chief for the department.
On mute, Norma. Madam Chair, you're on mute.
I apologize for that. I was just saying, in the time that you've been here, you were mentioning that you were going to address some of the things that you have seen so far that could be a benefit here in San Diego, or your action plan, or your plan for the city.
You know, I think it's important, me being new to our city, one of my quotes that I really live by is I don't come at a complex issue with simplistic solutions. And so as a new person to the city, I don't want to offer up simplistic solutions in a context where I'm still learning about. And so right now, I would say my primary role right now is to learn all that I can, given the speed of the change that is going to be happening with new policies that are coming out around the opportunities that are presented in front of us. And so right now, I've actually said to folks, I'm cautioning against me being a new person in the city saying, you should do this. Because that could be very pragmatic in terms of my experience and my perspective is met with just, I need more context. And so that's okay to say, and the mayor hired me for that. Like I was brought here for a reason, because I do bring a different perspective in terms of being an outside person and new to the city. But so my role right now is to just really make sure I am in partnership and dialogue and learning from what folks are thinking about the way in which our department interacts and builds inclusive and equitable services, right? And so that's my main priority right now. And then most certainly, I'm definitely not shy about my experience in this space. And so when I get more context experience into this particular context in San Diego, paired with my own experience that I'm very confident in, I'm sure that I'll definitely be an asset to the chief and the mayor as well.
Awesome. Any other questions for Ms. Desmond? Well, I'm so excited as an activist and supporter of equity. I'm really pleased that our city now has this office and that you're heading it. It seems that you have wonderful and great experience, extensive experience. So welcome to San Diego, and we look forward to continuing our collaboration.
Yes, and I most certainly will keep work. I think Gerald comes to somehow disappeared somewhere. And so I'll, oh, there you are. So I'll most certainly keep working with Gerald around like continually popping into this space, because it was a priority for me most certainly to come to this particular group. So you'll definitely see even if it's not me formally speaking or being on the agenda, I definitely want to keep, Samantha, to your point, like I want to make sure that I am understanding the ways in which you all are moving, some of your barriers and ways that I can support from my individual position. And so you will see me popping in continuously in this space So I'm looking at Gerald, you keep pushing over here now, to make sure that I am in the right place at the right time, and look forward to partnering with all of you all.
Great, thank you. We're gonna look forward to that.
And thank you so much, Chief Desmond, because you did. You came ready to go in. And as a matter of fact, she was meeting with boards and commissions even before she came to work. She didn't even have a phone or a computer yet, and she was willing to meet with folks. And so, that's very admirable of you. And I hope that your niece is doing okay. The last time you were on, you were telling the story about your niece, and so I recall that. But thank you for being willing to come and share and to work in our city. Appreciate what you've done thus far in 2 months. So thank you.
All right, moving on in our agenda, we're now going to turn over to the Chief of Staff for the 4th Council District, Mr. Henry Foster III. Welcome.
Hello, how is everyone today?
Good.
So you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me fine. As mentioned, I'm Henry Foster, Chief of Staff for Council District 4, Council Member Monica Montgomery Stepp. So glad to be here today. I happened to run into Reverend Brown at another meeting, and told him that I needed to come and pay a visit and say hello to folks. So hello, and as always, want to bring greetings from Council Member Monica Montgomery Stepp. Tonight, she is currently at Oak Park, where they are celebrating a funding event in where they were able to get some money from the state via Senator Tony Atkins for the Oak Park Library. So that's where she is at tonight with Senator Atkins, and also Assembly Member Akila Weber. So I wanted to bring greetings on her behalf. Just really quickly, I won't keep you long. Just some of the things that we have been working on since the council member has taken office. As everyone's aware, one of the main things that she wanted to come in and get established was the Commission on Police Practices, in which she was successful in getting that to the ballot, in which we received 75% vote to move that commission forward. With that, we are now in the process of putting together the Implementation Ordinance. We have been diligently working on that. For those who have not been following it, we did have a presentation at the Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods Committee, at which time we did move the item back to the attorneys to go back and do some additional review and some analysis, and to do some rework. At the time that this happened, shortly thereafter, the city attorney, because of capacity issues, did go ahead and release us to engage outside counsel. And so we have actually signed up with Myers-Nave to help us with the Commission on Police Practices. As of recent, I want to say about 2 weeks ago or so, we were given the green light to move forward with Myers-Nave. We are working with attorneys out of their Oakland office, and we have started to work through all of the transition documents, updating them, providing them with all the current information. Part of that process is to make sure that they had a copy of what folks sometimes hear, the voters ordinance that was drafted by the San Diegans for Justice. Also, we work closely with the current commission in regards to the roundtable discussions and so forth that were had over the recent year, as we were trying to look at what the community was looking for in regards to the implementation ordinance. So we downloaded all of that information over to the attorneys, and are working diligently to come back with another draft of that ordinance. And hopefully right now our current target date is the first quarter of 2022. And hopefully we will be back in front of Public Safety Livable Neighborhoods with that draft of the ordinance. Also, one of the things that we have been working on is the Surveillance and Privacy Advisory Board ordinance. As most of you know, we kind of hit a little snag with some what they termed smart streetlights a few years back. So we teamed up with Trust SD and brought forward a policy, a surveillance ordinance, and also a privacy advisory board ordinance. Just a little background on those two items. Just to kind of dust things off. Originally, the previous administration had brought forward a council policy, and that council policy was brought forward in January of 20. At that time, the Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods Committee, the council member elected to send that one back to the mayor's office and elected to bring forward an actual ordinance. Felt that we wanted to come forward with something with a little more teeth, an actual ordinance, which is general law, to establish some standards on how surveillance equipment is used throughout the city of San Diego. With that, that policy did make its way through the full council. It did go through an initial first reading. It's currently in meet and confer, where it's been for about, I want to say, going on to a year now. We are eagerly working with the current administration of the mayor's office to address any issues that have been raised as of now, and we'll continue through that process as we work to move those items forward. Also, another piece of legislation that we are going to be working on is the Protect Ordinance, which is the CPAT coalition is bringing forward, and we are working with them. Currently, we have also contracted with the same attorneys that are working with the Implementation Ordinance for the Commission on Police Practices. They will also be doing the initial legal analysis on the Protect Ordinance. So once we have CPP in a good place, then we will shift gears and pull that out and continue that process and that legal analysis. The main gist of that ordinance is to try to come up with a way to deal with pretext stops. So we're eagerly looking to get that started as well. In addition, we have had some staffing changes. One important staffing change that has taken place is with our Public Safety and Livable Neighborhoods Committee consultant, our Ms. Tiffany Harrison, which was our council rep for various areas throughout the Skyline area. She has accepted that promotion and has moved over to backfill that position. Our previous consultant, Chloe Triplett, has taken another job offer at another location. So we are eager to have Tiffany in this seat and look forward to a lot of the good work that she will do. Also, one important program that we are kicking off and working closely with San Diego PD on is the No Shots Fired program. It's something that was brought to us by Bishop Bowser. We worked closely with Bishop Bowser for probably about, and the chief and folks for about a year now in getting that up and running. And now we are currently in the planning phases and rollout of the No Shots Fired program. I will put a link in the chat, Reverend Brown, just in case folks have not seen the fact sheet for that program. But it's a very something we're looking to get started. I know I just went through some training where they brought in some experts on street outreach. So folks that have been entrenched in intervention and so forth for over 40 years. Training pretty intense. And so we're looking forward to getting that program rolled out. So with that, I will turn it back over to the chair, and I'm available for any questions.
That's all wonderful activity that's going on and that our community can really appreciate knowing. Oftentimes we're not all informed, so I really thank you for coming to our board and sharing all that information. Any questions from our board members? I just want to congratulate Tiffany. Tiffany and I actually went through the training to be on boards and commissions, and very cool lady. So please congratulate her on my behalf.
Very good. I think one of the conversations that we had, I think you will see Tiffany attending these meetings from time to time to make sure that we stay engaged, make sure we understand the things and items that you are bringing forward as a board, and working with Reverend Brown and San Diego PD to see if we can assist in bringing about change and reimagining policing in San Diego.
Yeah, and thank you for the initiative you took and reaching out to CAB to come and share everything that District 4 is doing. And we encourage other chiefs of staff in our city council to also reach out and see what's going on in their neighborhoods, because it's important for our community members to know what actions are being done. Because oftentimes I know that before I came to CAB, there was a lot of things that I thought were not happening. And I was, as a community member requesting, and then like, oh, it is happening. Okay, I didn't know. Or, oh, I didn't realize I can join that activity, because that's something I'm passionate about, right? Like the various activities that you mentioned that are being done in District 4. And so we look forward to this continued collaboration and communication to our community. Reverend Brown.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to mention that the Councilmember Montgomery, as the chair of public safety, and Mr. Foster had brought this to me. She's not only the council member for, as we know, for District 4, but she addresses the issue of public safety through every district here in the city of San Diego, which is extremely important, because what you think is going on in Southeastern may be going on in Claremont or Mira Mesa or some other place, okay, in the council district, or the council member, along with the other council members that are there, have their hand on the pulse of what's taking places in those districts. So it would also be good for the other representatives or the other board members and our commissioners to make sure that they are connecting with Council District 4 as well, and the public safety, and attend some of those meetings that the public safety subcommittee, the committee has, because again, it's not just to address the issues in those districts that are challenged, but also to address the district of public safety all across the city of San Diego.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Chief Foster, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And we're now going to turn to you, Reverend Brown, for our executive director report.
Okay. Well, good evening, board members, and again, thank you to our guests that have come this evening. And so I'll try to make this real quick. Today, I spent time at the San Diego District Attorney's Regional Leadership Institute with law enforcement officers all over from all over the county of San Diego. Not only local law enforcement, but also our federal law enforcement agencies that cover the border, to those federal law enforcement agencies like the FBI and the DEA. And they're seeking to have an understanding of how to interact with communities and how to build relationships with communities throughout. The Leadership Academy is there designed to help mid-level officers between the ranks of sergeant, captain, and those that move up the rank to talk about those complex issues. And I love what our chief said, our chief of race and equity said. You can't talk about you can give complex issues simple solutions. He actually said, I didn't come at complex issues with simple solutions. And so it's really a kind of a brainstorm, and getting folks that may not have been in the community and been behind the desk for a while to really meet folks where they are. And so a part of the Leadership Institute is to take people to different communities throughout San Diego. In the past, it's been known as a bus tour, but to spend a half a day at the LGBTQ Center, to spend a half a day in the different neighborhoods throughout San Diego, whether it's in Southeastern or whether it's in Northeastern or wherever it might be, to actually meet the folks that are down, that are there, the citizens that people have been called to protect and serve. And so we were there today, and we'll be back on Wednesday as well to talk about African Americans and law enforcement. Also, we've been open, because of the Institute, we've been open up to different avenues where folks can go in and receive training, whether it's at the District Attorney's Citizenship Academy or Citizens Academy, whether it's at the San Diego Police Citizens Academy, whether it's at the FBI Citizens Academy, which is happening in March of 2022. One of the things, and I'm glad that Chief Conley is here tonight, that members of the CAB that I would recommend that everyone would go through would be to go to our dispatching center and just spend a day or an afternoon with the folks at dispatching to find out how it works. If you have not been there, to find out how they prioritize calls, what the response times are, those different things, and all the different things that they have to go through. Oftentimes we think about trauma in the community on behalf of the citizen and on behalf of the officers that's there, but our dispatchers are the ones that normally get the first calls that come in, whether it's a child that is choking or dying, whatever the traumatic situation might be. And so at last, Captain Jerry Hahn has taken over the dispatching center, and would like to schedule for the board members and any other community member that's interested some time to go and spend in dispatch and find out exactly how those calls go forward. That's the second portion of the report. The third portion is that, as you know, I'm also the interim executive director for the San Diego Human Relations Commission. The Human Relations Commission, as we're entering into this week, into next week, have formed together to have a campaign, a San Diego United Against Hate campaign. And the commission is seeking to partner with CAB, with the Citizen Advisory Board, and all other partners to say that here in San Diego, we're standing up against hate in all forms. And so that's the end of my report. If you have any questions, please talk to me afterwards or email me, and I'll be glad to give you any more information that you might need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, we're going to move on to our action items. We don't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure that we get through some of them unless there's a pressing question from anyone on the board regarding the executive director's report. Okay. So if you recall, we have some action items. Vice Chair Jenkins, would you like to address these? I believe Reverend Brown and you brought these to the agenda. Your mic, the mic.
Sorry. Action item A that we discussed was the development of an ad hoc committee within the board to study issues pertaining to policy proposals regarding pretext stops and traffic stops in the city. And so that's something that we would like to see the board take up, as it is a timely issue and a pressing concern in San Diego as well as other cities across the nation. And in order to adopt that as an ad hoc committee, we would need a vote of members to do that. Is there anybody interested in proposing a motion to develop that ad hoc committee to study pretext stops and a traffic stop policy? I mean, I guess I could make the motion. Would that be satisfactory?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I motion that we develop an ad hoc committee to study Sdpd's policies and practices pertaining to pretext stops and traffic stops.
Do we have a second? Is that you, Pastor?
I have a question. I mean, can we just ask them? I mean, I'm
Well-
sure they can tell us.
In doing the work of developing an ad hoc committee around this issue, we would be looking at what the data says around the use of pretext stops, what our traffic stops look like, which communities are impacted, is there any disparate impact as it pertains to pretext or traffic stops, review of policy in other cities, and things of that nature, so that we could potentially develop a policy proposal for here in San Diego. So in order for us to have that ad hoc committee, we would need to have a vote of the board to develop it. But obviously we would need the interest of board members around doing that work.
Okay. I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion on it? Any further discussion?
I had a question. So didn't we already go over that wasn't that kind of already asked and answered? I mean, I know you're trying to get more in depth, right, Samantha? Is that the idea behind it? Because I mean, we went through this with our other items. So it was one of the items. And I thought they did, give us a pretty good answer and response to pretext stops and why they do them and how they do them. And Jordan, didn't you also give us, weren't we also given a lot of the stats and stuff for other stops as well? Or I'm just curious.
So
I thought we did too.
we, going back 2 years, talked about one of the recommendations. There was 30 recommendations submitted by CAB that we did respond to. But I don't want to, interpret or misinterpret Ms. Jenkins is proposing. I think what she is looking at as a continuation may be maybe what the RIPA board is looking at. If you followed any of the RIPA board recent hearings, they've had additional meetings in regards to pretext stops. In addition to that, there have been various instances in law where the state of Virginia, Washington State, other states around Philadelphia as a city have looked at the impact on traffic stops and pretext stops. So it's a dynamic issue, one that continually evolves, and I will leave it up to the board, but there's a lot of information out there, whether it be from various stop data studies, but as I think Ms. Jenkins kind of laid out to the board, a number of different evolving issues on how cities and states are addressing the issue or revisiting the issue as new information becomes available and as expectations of the community continue to, change in a rather dynamic environment. Is that kind of where you're going, Ms. Jenkins?
Yes, thank you. That's an effective summation of my concern and proposal. San Diego takes pride in being at the forefront of policy as it pertains to policing. And I think we want to stay abreast of national, change and changes in other states, as well as here in California, as it pertains to, issues of policing. And so I think picking this work up again at this time would be appropriate. And, something else that Mr. Gerald and I discussed was, the possibility of expanding our scope in doing this work by engaging with community members who would be interested in supporting the work of an ad hoc committee, because, we are not limited to only doing this work through the sole membership of the board. We can bring in community members who are interested in the issue as well to support the work.
Who would you have in mind?
I have not identified anyone specific yet. I as a board with diverse members that represent all of the districts of the city, I would think that we would all be interested in reaching out to our constituents and finding out who within all the different districts would be interested in engaging in this work. I think we want to be sure that as a city and as representatives of the city that we are, staying abreast of the changes that are happening, regarding policing. And given that we had our chief of race and equity officer here with us today, and she spoke about the issues of equity and impact. We need to look at whether or not there is disparate impact on different segments of the community, different districts as it pertains to stops. I think
Okay.
Bob had a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
The Brown Act doesn't allow us to bring in people outside the board for ad hoc committees. We brought in experts from the police department to present to the ad hoc committees on issues. If you want outside of the board participation, then it's got to be a standing committee with standing meetings and regular meetings and notices and all of that.
And a standing meeting could be taking, the topic could be discussed with the racial profiling committee that we currently have.
Yes.
The only concern that I would have is having quorum and having who's going to continue meeting, because we've been having a really hard time getting that back up and restart it. So maybe once we get more representation, or is this urgent enough that we do want to move forward and have maybe new members join the standing committee so that we can move that work forward?
I think that Madam Chair, if I may, I think that the standing committee, along with this, would be the perfect place to have the study of Pretext. Also, from what I've seen is that when we talk about CPP, the Commission on Police Practices, the Commission on Police Practices have, in fact, invited in folks to be, as Chief Foster spoke about earlier, they have invited in folks to be a part of the implementation committee that they have. So I think that we need to take a look a little bit deeper into that. When I was having a conversation with Ms. Jenkins, the thought was that you do invite the community in. And again, I'll go back and I will talk with the city attorneys. You do invite the community in to be a part of some of these ad hoc committees that are there, or even the standing committee. But we have to, in some way or another, if I'm just being just totally forthcoming, we have to find a way to engage the community in being a part of the process. I think that when, as a board, that we begin to do that, then we will see more activity from the community, and they will in fact come on, and we won't have the challenges of meeting quorum because people will want to come to the meetings. And so I just submit that to you for consideration. Again, the more that we find ways in which to bring community in to actually have these conversations, the better that we'll be as a board. And I think that one of the challenges that the board has had is, with every district being represented, we've only seen the representative of that district. And so we have to figure out ways in which we can, in fact, start to bring the community members, including council members, and Chief Foster being the first one of the council chiefs to come, but inviting all the rest to come in and be a part of these committees that are here. So that was the thought behind that, the ad hoc committees. And I think that we need to take a look at the Brown Act again.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. I'm gonna go ahead, Bob. Bob, you have a question?
We could start with the ad hoc and do the fundamental work. And then once we figure out the Brown Act, we can convert the ad hoc to a standing committee and go forward with more participation with the community members and public meetings like that. But maybe the first couple meetings we'll do the ad hoc and see where the ad hoc committee wants to go with it, and then come back to the board and change the stand to a stand committee and comply with the Brown Act.
So would that be a friendly amendment to the motion?
No, it just let them out. That's in the discussion. The motion is to ad hoc, but we can understand that we can convert it anytime we want to a standing committee to
Okay.
comply with the Brown Act. We can change it whenever we like.
So not necessarily adding the
That is
fact
correct.
that turn into committee. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a vote, call for a vote. Bob, roll call.
I just got unmute again. Kathleen Fisher,
Yes.
Pastor Hodges,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jenkins,
Yes.
Chair Sandoval,
Yes.
Jack Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Burton,
Yes.
Stephanie Perez,
Yes.
and I vote yes. It passed unanimous.
Now, the next point of action would be who's going to join it. So Samantha, go ahead.
I'll definitely join the ad hoc committee to do this work and invite others to get involved with me.
Okay.
I'd also like to join this one. I think I can actually help educate to what actually a pretext stop is and some of the realities of stops.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else?
Yeah, me too.
I would like to as well.
We have Bob and Pastor Hodges. That's 4. Anyone else? Or that would be what? Maybe that would be quorum, I think, from what we have right now. So that's a good number. Did you have another question, Bob? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is another proposal regarding an ad hoc committee to study Sdpd response times. This is related to recent incidents, and I'd like to let Gerald talk a little more in depth about recent concerns regarding response times to incidents in communities.
So, as you know, and the Chief Neslight has already explained it. Recently, there was an incident in Hillcrest, and I had a conversation with some officers that took 1 hour and 59 minutes. I think it was in the UT as well. And I think that it is symptomatic of some other issues that are out there. And just to study, and this is why I was saying going to the call room and listening into those calls, okay, and understanding what they do there in order to get those calls out to the officer, and taking a look at a whole picture look at what Sdpd has to do as it relates to responding to calls. As I was talking to a friend earlier today, you know, this has been a continual issue that has gone on for years. It will go good, then it will go bad again, you know. And again, Sdpd has to respond to the top priority of calls that are there. But again, the community, in this case, the Hillcrest community, went up in arms, and of course, the call was made to the mayor's office and other things, and of course, the call came back to me. And so, again, without just trying to point fingers or blame anyone, I think that the board has a great opportunity to take a look at the calls and response time from all perspectives. And I think that you may also see that there are possibly staffing issues that are there, you know, that we as a city probably need to be concerned about. And as the former council member Joe LaCarver said when he was asked about how many officers does Sdpd have, you know, in order to be able to respond to calls out there. And so all those different things are there. This is something that the board can take a look at, can study at, and can actually help the cities, help the citizens of the city, because response time is a matter and a difference of life and death for the citizens of San Diego. And so this is just something that we talked about, the vice chair and I, and it is of course up to the board whether or not the board decides to have a committee to study those issues. Does that help, Vice Chair?
It does. Thank you
Okay.
for your explanation of the recent concern. So I leave it to someone else to potentially make a motion around the development of an ad hoc committee to look at any issues regarding response time to calls.
Is there a motion? I do know that that incident happened on Halloween, which several years ago, I was talking to one of my police officer friends, and he mentioned, I would have thought that the most busiest time would be, I don't know, 4th of July or New Year's. And he said, no, it's actually Halloween. It's one of the craziest days of the year where we have so many phone calls, and Thanksgiving. And I was shocked. And I think that goes to the importance of us being able to be informed of, like you said, Gerald, what types of calls come in, so that we could be better understanding of situations like this. You know, why didn't they respond to an hour and 50 minutes? And I know when we first started CAB, there was that question regarding how the disparity, right? Like in certain communities, we would get like 5 or 6 officers at one time. In other communities, they wouldn't respond just as fast. And so being able to understand that the priorities of the calls, like you said, Gerald, is a great way for us to really be able to understand what creates the selection of where officers go and provide that support. So with that, I want to ask again, is there a motion to for this committee? Is a committee or ad hoc committee? Committee to study Sdpd response time. Okay, seeing that there's none.
Oh, you know what? I'll make a motion for that. I think that's a good study.
Okay, so Mr. Burton is moving. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Ms. Stephanie Perez seconds. And is there further discussion? Okay, seeing that there's no, go ahead, Bob.
A couple years ago, Chief Ganorama provided me some numbers as to the number of officers per division, number of violent crimes by division, property crime by division. We got population numbers. We have, you know, number of how many miles by division, and I went through and crunched the numbers and came up with a way to, in essence, rank the division by the fewest incidents and the most incidents. And that information was shared with the assistant chief and and I would like to be able to get that data updated again to more recent and more current numbers. It may shed some light as to why City Heights is the smallest, most dense, you know, with X number of officers, and some other areas like Northern that is much more spread out with fewer officers. And I think that sheds some light as just simply the numbers. And we can work with the department as to the number of 911 calls and break it down by division possibly. And we can expand that to maybe quantifiably look at how the divisions can compare from one to the other. You know, there's, you know, that work probably has we can aggregate and summarize, but the actual numbers need to probably be done at an ad hoc level and not published. But the summaries could be obviously present to the board for a recommendation if there's something that could be gleaned from it.
Am I hearing you signing up, Bob?
I have this spreadsheet. I just need Chief Gadarama's replacement to cooperate and send us the data, and then work with them to crunch the numbers. And when I did provide it back, I didn't get any feedback as to whether or not I grossly underestimated or did anything wrong with it. But the board didn't want to go forward with the discussion, so we dropped it.
Chair Sandoval, can I add something to the conversation?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you. First of all, San Diego Police Department takes great pride in responding to all calls as quickly as we can. That's what we're here to do, to make sure people have a quick response and keep the community safe. I think in this particular incident that you were referring to in the Hillcrest community, you already mentioned that it just happened to happen on a very busy night, Halloween night, extremely busy for our police department. We have staffing challenges. Calls are prioritized based on their severity. So emergency calls we respond to first, and those with lower priority, maybe where there's not a suspect present anymore or no one's life is in danger, they get put down on a lower priority, and officers will respond to those after we handle the higher priority emergency calls. In this particular call, this accident was formatted as a non-injury accident. So it was prioritized at a lower level, which is kind of a reason, combined with the fact that very busy night, tough staffing challenges, that it took that long. We regret that it took that long, but sometimes with what we're faced with, our response times are a little bit longer. I reported on our crime increasing a little bit earlier. Just to give you an example, the week of November 8th through November 14th, we saw an increase of 495 additional calls as compared to last year. So we're seeing an increase in the number of crimes as well. So I just wanted to add that as context. And then Bob had some good points too. You talk about how we look at our staffing levels, and we basically look at our crime rates in each division, and we adjust our staffing based on that. But one of the challenges we've had is the overall population of the city of San Diego has increased by 100,000 citizens in what time period?
Over the last decade.
Over the last decade, yet we haven't been able to adjust our staffing levels to meet that. So that's something that should be considered as well.
And also each division has only so many lockers for officers. You can't stick 200 officers in any one division because you can't physically house them. And maybe this is a prompt to someday we look at where the divisions are and how big they are, and whether or not that's a much longer term solution that needs to be addressed. That certain divisions need more space, and how do you adjust it, either add on to the building or a new building or whatever it is. So we could be looking at long-term recommendations here.
It's a kind of a catch-22 topic, because we're at a time where there's still a national narrative out there in some areas where they want to reduce the numbers of police. On the flip side, when we don't get there quick enough, they're wondering why. So we really need to maintain our staffing levels and look at increasing them based on the increase of population and the rise in crime. That'll allow us to respond faster.
Chief, and I see Kathy has her hand up, but I'll wait.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I just wanted to add that, I know Rachel had previously tried to get everybody to go on ride-alongs, and I know I went on one, and I some other people did too. And I think that, I know it's difficult for some people to go on, ride-along to really see what's going on, but it was really helpful to get out there with the officers and see what their night is like and what they're dealing with. So I think it would be great if we do an ad hoc. At least the people on the ad hoc need to get out there and do a ride along and see what's really going on. because it, you know, you may or may not get a busy night, but it is helpful. That was my comment.
And we welcome that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Reverend Brown.
And I would add to Kathy's, not only a ride along, but a sit along. I think that's what they call them, Chief, a sit along with the folks in the dispatch center to see exactly what they go through and the calls and how they prioritize those calls. I would ask this question, Chief or Captain, as a city, as the 8th largest city of San Diego, how large is the population and how many officers do we have that are actually staffing the city?
So our population over the last decade has now grown to, you know, by as Chief Connolly had said, in 2010, we were at 1.3 million. We're above 1.4 million now. It's about 100,000 additional in population. Our staffing right now, it looks, you know, like we had a great, you know, Chief Connolly reported out earlier, not the 1966 with the additional 47 new recruits. But oftentimes it is misleading in that I believe right now we have 90 recruits in the academy, another 90 in field training, and then at any given time you have 100 officers who are either maybe out with injuries, disabilities, pregnancies, military leave. Oftentimes, you know, right now, interestingly, to your point, we're budgeted for 2036, but our budgeted number of 2036 is, you know, we were 10 years ago budgeted for 2128 in fiscal year 2009. So we've gone down almost 100 officers in budgeted strength, but yet our population has grown by 100,000 people. And we haven't hit that budgeted strength, even our current one at 2036 in a decade. So those challenges are there. I think in you look in comparison to other large cities, for populations above 500, Chief Neslight's been very vocal about this. We are the second lowest staffed police department in the United States with a population above 500,000 persons living within it. Only San Jose is lower. By comparison, if you were to look at a city like Dallas, which is smaller than us, they strive to keep over 3,000 officers, 1,000 more than us. San Antonio, a slightly bigger city than us, I believe has around 2,300. So obviously we're doing pretty well, I think, in keeping, you know, San Diego's reputation has been one of America's safest cities. I think we're doing really, really well. But I think the Chief Connolly, you know, when you hear the incidents report out of Hillcrest and people are frustrated, I think our officers are frustrated too. They're trying to meet the expectations of the community. They're going, they're responding, they're trying to get there. And I think at the end of the day, one of the other indicators that comes into a study like this is really looking at how much proactive time do they have, because that's also, in many cases, a big indicator of how you staff. Many policing think tanks per se will say you should have a patrol staff that has 40% proactive time to meet the needs of the community. And that's something that came out of the Office of the City Auditor's report in 2013. Many of our divisions, I believe, are less than 10%, or they have 10%, less than 10% free time. So that means absent a lunch break, and maybe going to the bathroom, you're just going from call to call to call to call to call. It'd be an interesting study and probably something that hasn't been updated in quite some time. And it exists in a dynamic situation, much like other stop information that Ms. Jenkins brought up. These are issues that we continually look at within the police department, and they're continually ripe for review on a regular basis to see what's going on and potentially what changes need to be addressed.
Thank you. I'm looking at the time and we have about 20 minutes. And so I'd like to encourage us to move forward if we are going to be creating this ad hoc committee. Reverend?
Just for update, Chief Foster put in the audit report from, and he said it may be helpful. It's 14-006 patrol operation. It is in the chat, and so if you'd like to access that and go over that, it is in fact. Chief has his hand up. Chief Foster has his hand up.
Yes. Thank you for highlighting that, Reverend Brown. Just to add, I think one thing that you will find useful in the report is how PD is supposed to be, or what they indicated in that report on how they would determine their staffing. A lot of times we hear the discussion around numbers per capita, I guess, is the way you might want to call it, based on population. Where if you read that report, what's interesting is that's not the metric that's used to determine staffing and staffing needs. So I suggest you guys read that report. I think there's some useful information. I do think it is a little, I think the last time it was done in 2013. An update to that report probably would be good at this point in time, as they have fully implemented all of their new systems and so forth on what they use for dispatch. And so I think you will find it useful as you continue your conversations and analysis.
Thank
I
you.
just saw Lansdowne's name was on there. So that was a while back, right?
Correct.
All right, so returning back to the item, do we have a motion to create a committee to study the Sdpd response time?
Yes, Burton, seconded
Okay.
by Perez.
Let's take a vote. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say.
All right, Fisher,
Yes.
Hodges,
Yeah.
Ilko's yes. Chair, Vice Chair Jenkins,
Yes.
Chair Sandoval,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Perez.
Stephanie, you
She's-
can type it.
Well, she seconded, she has to vote yes.
Okay.
You can't second and vote no.
All right, so motion passes. Any members want to sign up? You could sign me up as one of them. I'd love to go to the dispatch center and see how that functions. Anyone else?
I'll join that as well.
Okay, thank you, David. Last call for anyone else? Okay, so I guess it's you and I, David. We'll report back.
No, I'll crunch the numbers for you guys. I'll do the data crunching like I did before.
I think Stephanie was saying something.
Yes, she was, but it broke
I
off.
think she must be having some Wi-Fi trouble or something.
Stephanie, if you want to type it up, capture your input. Oh, she would like to be on the ad hoc. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we'll have Stephanie join us as well. All right. There's no other member that would like to enter that ad hoc. We're going to move on to item C on action items, the retreat agenda items from way back in the day. And do you have the PowerPoint, Vice President Jenkins, and your audio?
Yes, I'll also share screen now.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see here. So looks like, Madam Chair, do you think we need to do the bylaws and municipal code review at this time? I kind of went over that at the outset of the meeting.
Earlier, yeah, we can go ahead and skip that. Just an overview really quick about how we as CAP do follow the municipal code. So just to communicate to the community that is how we function as a board. Okay. That's all we want to.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was our point as a executive team, that we wanted to make sure that the community was aware that that's how we function, and that's how we have to abide to the municipal code. But so we can move on with that. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2 is our vacancy fulfillment strategy. As you all know, we continue to have multiple vacancies on the board, and these vacancies are contributing to ongoing difficulty with reaching quorum on a monthly basis. As we said earlier, we have vacancies in District 1, District 2, District 7, District 8, our Human Resources seat, and our Probation seat. District 1 is Representative Joe LaCava. District 2 is Jen Campbell. District 7 is Raul Campillo. District 8 is Vivian Moreno. And the other 2 seats come from community members. I would like to propose that maybe as an executive team or certain members of the board be willing to engage in some activity where we make appointments with these council members and actively lobby them to fill these seats. We see that District 3 Representative, Council Pro Tem Stephen Whitburn was pretty responsive in getting his vacancy filled. And, you know, maybe we can beseech the other board members to, you know, step up to his challenge because these seats have been vacant for quite some time, as you see on the screen, and we need to get it done. So, you know, I would be willing to be a part of a team of folks that is willing to engage City Council around getting these seats filled. And I would like to encourage any other members who are interested in doing that work with me to see if we can maybe schedule some meetings, or if anyone else has a different strategy they would like to apply to this challenge.
Samantha, I'm also interested in that.
Stephanie, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Stephanie. And just so the board is aware, we did reach out as the executive team. As the chair, with the collaboration of the executive team, I sent an email to the various district representatives and informing them that their seat was vacant and requesting their support to fill it. We even met with a couple of the representatives. I know Campillo was one of them, and that I personally spoke to, and Whitburn, I believe, as well. I'm not sure if we ever had a meeting as an executive team with District 2, Ms. Campbell, but we have reached out. But it's important for us to have that follow-up, right? And if the community, if anyone from the community is watching and you represent any of these districts or have a background in human resources or probation, please reach out to us, because we want to have everyone's voice at the table and be able to continuously have this meeting without it being endangered by quorum. So with that, I'll open it up for any other ideas that we may have on how else we could recruit these members. Do we still have Chief Foster with us? I don't see him. Is Chief Foster still around, Gerald?
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Do you know, as Chief of Staff, if there's a way that we can collaborate with the other Chiefs of Staff to promote the seeking of representation on the board?
I think you continue to do what you're doing. Reach out to the offices, identify their staff person that they have assigned to their public safety items, and work with them. I also recommend, as I'm sure you have, stay in constant in conversation with Mr. Matthew Burton with the mayor's office. I think that would be helpful. He's always reaching out to our offices in hopes to fill vacant seats. But I would continue to go down the road that you're doing. I will, based on what I know, if you send me this little quick roster sheet here, I'll reach out to the other chiefs, let them know that I attended, and see what I can do to have some discussions with them to see if they can release some memos and recommendations and get some folks signed.
That'd be great. Thank you so much for your collaboration in that. We appreciate it.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Thank you again, Chief Officer. Madam Chair, one of the things that we might do, I see District 1 and District 2, and of course, District 1 is our old board member, Joe LaCava. And we did in fact speak with Mr. LaCava, Councilmember LaCava early on. But I would say to the board to invite either the board member, invite the council member at our next meeting from District 1, District 2, and from District 8 to invite them to our next meeting in December, and invite their representative. If the council member can't make it, invite the chief of staff and follow the lead, if you will, of Mr. Foster, and give them some time to speak to the board.
I would love that. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Foster, you're setting the path. So thank you very much for coming and creating this avenue for us to be able to have that collaboration directly with the chiefs of staff.
No worries, my pleasure.
All right.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we have an action plan in place. And it sounds also as though we are committed to meeting in December. So I guess we'll start on that outreach almost immediately so that people have sufficient time to put it on their calendars moving forward. Thank you for the conversation around that issue. The next issue that we had on the agenda was
The survey of pressing issues regarding policing within your district or constituency.
Right. Let me try to get back to the PowerPoint.
You're not going to be able to get through all the items. We only have about 8 more minutes. So just.
Yeah, you know, I appreciate that. And I'm feeling as though we might as well try to push the remainder of these action items to next month so that we could have a more robust conversation. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Madam Chair.
And if we were to be able to, for example, I'm looking at the consent agenda concept presentation, that tends to be shorter. And if we go out of the bullets, we have to amend the agenda, right, Gerald?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so. I'm looking. I'm torn whether we should move the agenda or just table it for the next meeting. What do you guys think?
I think we should probably table
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
How does everyone else feel?
I saw Jack say yes.
I agree.
Bob, yes. David said yes.
I agree.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and table the rest of the items for the next agenda, next meeting. And if there's anything else that any member of our board would like us to consider as an executive team, please reach out to us. Know that whenever we present the agenda is after the executive team has had a chance to come together and discuss what we want to present for the following meeting. However, your voice as CAP members is also valuable. So please let us know if there's something that you feel should be discussed so that we can look into it. Okay. And add it to the agenda. Go ahead, Bob.
The next meeting, I believe, is Monday, December 20th. The alternative would be December 27th. Do we want to meet Christmas week or the week after Christmas? We've moved it around the last couple years. One, because Hanukkah is actually in November and not in December. So I just want to make sure we're all on the page to want December 20th or the 27th.
I could do the
With
20th.
approval, we could in fact move it to December the 12th.
The 12th will be Sunday, maybe the 13th.
Excuse me, the 13th.
So is it 13th for everyone?
I like the idea of the 13th as opposed to Christmas week or, in between Christmas and New Year when people are going to want to be traveling and stuff possibly.
I agree.
Jack is shaking, not shaking, but nodding.
13th, good.
Okay, awesome. Let's move it to December 13th. If we could add that to the minutes.
Do.
All right, so please put it on your agenda. Remember to always RSVP to make sure that we have quorum. And hopefully between now and December, we can get some couple names nominated. I know that, Mr. Burton, how long did it take you? About 2-3 months? To get the nomination?
Yeah,
approved?
something about that.
Well, that's really quick, Mr. Burton. It took you 6 months.
I was gonna ask.
So I've heard.
Stephanie,
Me
and-
too. It took me 6 months too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that Mr. Gordon has spoken to me and Reverend Brown about, is that they're trying to speed the process to appoint people on our boards and commissions to make sure that all the seats are full. So we really appreciate the support that has brought to CAB in particular. And we hope that the community could also, stand up and say, hey, I'd like to have my voice heard as well and my community represented for my district. So please, like I said, reach out and sign up. Okay. And Mr. Brown, Reverend Brown, where would people go if they want to get the application?
They simply can go to the San Diego Boards and Commission. The application is there. Once they fill it out, okay, it goes into the onboard system. The onboard system then sends me an email, as well as it sends it to our administrative assistant, Ms. Shante Bradford, as well as to Director Gordon. We see the application. Usually it asks for a person to identify between 1 to 3 different boards that he or she would like to consider being on. And so those ones that have CAB as priority, I will get them and we will start making contact as soon as possible. And so again, Mr. Burton is the exception to the rule with such a short period of time. But I think again, we also have to get those council members here to the board. And then it's also very critical that, again, and thank you, Kathy, thank you, Ms. Fisher, for coming in today, is to have that quorum of the 9 people that we do have here on the board. So it takes 8, but we have 9. And so that's going to be very, very important. And we always have that.
Yes, I echo that. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. And Mr. Burton, I know that how excited you were to start from the get-go. So I hope you can stick around and enjoy every one of the meetings without having us to counsel them. And I guess I'm going to call it a day. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
No motion, just.
I always do that, my school board, they do it. And so I always wonder, okay, which one is the one that we do?
Right.
Which one's
The draft minutes will be sent to the executive board and Gerald here in 2 minutes. All typed up, ready to go.
Roger that.
Talk about efficiency. Muchas gracias. All right, you guys have a wonderful evening.
All right,
Thank
good
you, Chief.
evening. See
Chief
ya.
Connors
Bye.
and Captain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir.
And have a wonderful Thanksgiving, all of you guys.
Thank you,
Yes.
Kathy.
Have a
You
blessed
too.
Thanksgiving. You
Likewise.
too.
Bye. Bob, we're usually the last ones on here, so.
There we go. I do need to, I want to change the format because my computer, I want to be able to copy and paste, and every time I have to reformat it. So I'm going to send you a blank format and then we'll just go from there. Because the one you give me seems to have a lot of problems, and when I hit enter, it does all sorts of indents and stuff. I'll just send you a clean draft and then just use that.
Bob, if I remember, and thank you for that. If I remember, I'm going to send you a copy of the format that I use for the Human Relations Commission. And what I do there is I simply go and take the video and I put down, following the leading of the agenda items and put video clip at such and such a time, click here,
Oh.
and the person clicks there and they can go right to the actual item there. That's without doing all the typing and everything else.
Yeah, but the good thing about some of the typing, and
Mhm.
I've learned over the years, like when the chief of staff said he volunteered to do something,
Mhm.
you put that in the minutes, and you don't put a lot in there other than that, and then that way he can't say he didn't. When
Right.
the police, the assistant chief says something,
Mhm.
it's right there, plain language in the minute, and we approve the minutes, and it's in there.
Right.
So there's no interpretation issue.
Right.
We can look at doing it the other way. I'm just not familiar with it, but
Yeah.
it's kind of great to sit there and type as we talk, and
Mhm.
I do it all. I get it all done. Who voted, and the vote counts. It's all done. So.
Was this a meaningful meeting tonight?
Yes, it was. I think we're still making some of the same mistakes, but it's getting better. I don't think Norma is prepared. Clearly, Samantha is. Norma is not prepared.
Mhm.
She's winging it way too much,
Right.
and that's just maybe her nature, and that's the way she leads.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm here in the church office, so
All right.
and head home. But thank
Good
you,
night.
Bob.
Thank
you
you.
for your help.
All
Good
right,
night,
no
Doc.
problem. See ya.
All right. Good night.